All right, we are live, and it was a long day. It's really been a long couple of days, but today was a long morning and very very well worth it. A really good day in the city, a really good day at the station, Sports Radio 610, the Odyssey app. The parade was rowdy. This parade was way bigger than 2017. The vibes were just incredible. The layout I thought was perfect, and it was just a good celebration of the best dynasty and I think the best team in the history of this city, the Astros. And not only was it a big deal, because anytime you win a championship locally, it's a big deal. But this was a big deal historically, and this was a big deal nationally. The nation made note of this, regardless of how they felt. There's just some real significance in this one, because now whenever you hear, the Astros cheated and you start to hear about the questioning of the Astros World Series, they can't really say as much now because of this one. And I just thought it was a perfect celebration. And the thing that makes this one even better is normally whenever you talk about the Astros, you start wondering about, windows and, how much longer do they have? And I remember even in 2017, it was, oh, damn, they got Verlander for 2 more years. This window's wide open. And then last year, it was Correa, and it was, is this window going to still be open? And you look at the way that this thing went down. Jose Altuve didn't have a very good postseason. Justin Verlander was your worst starter, and the guys most responsible for you winning this championship are young, like really young. Jeremy Pena is a rookie. Yordan Alvarez just signed a long deal. Christian Javier, we haven't even seen Christian Javier in the rotation consistently over the course of a season. Framber Valdez was your best pitcher. So it just seems like this could be the start of something. And there's all kinds of, questions. Today was more of, a celebration. The whole city was there. I don't know what the final tally was as far as how many people there, but this was a celebration of that. But when you start to look ahead and you start to wonder, what are the Astros going to do? Where the hell are the Astros going to go from here? I mean, there's the obvious emerging questions, the least of which is James Click. Who cares about James Click? Was he even there today? I think we're probably going to see them go back to the Luno pipeline and get a GM that actually knows what he's doing, not James Click. But that's neither here nor there. Justin Verlander, is Justin Verlander going to be back? I personally, I would not bring back Justin Verlander. I don't think you need to. I would use that money elsewhere, improve the lineup. You got Framber, you got Javier, you got Hunter Brown, you got Lance McCullers. I wouldn't bring back Justin Verlander, just strictly business because of how deep the rotation is. Do you bring back Michael Brantley? I don't know. You would like to ideally have someone who can play a little bit of left field because you would like to, somewhat platoon Yordan Alvarez. But do you bring back Michael Brantley? I don't know. You definitely, no matter what, you got to go get a bat. So you got to figure that out. But if you just look at the way that the money's lined up right now, and the fact that Altuve's deal is only going to be a couple more years, Bregman's starting to make more money this year. You've already paid Alvarez. You're going to have to eventually pay Tucker. There are just a lot of emerging questions. And the reality is, no matter how those things go, you still have a pretty solid core. You have a veteran core, and you have a younger core of guys that are going to be here for a while. But the parade was just phenomenal. It was just absolutely phenomenal. We were out there all night. Myself, John Lopez, Clint Sterner on the show. Hughley took over. Sean was out there. We were outside of Specs. That place looked like a Black Friday sale from 10 to 2. And it was just really cool because everyone, for the most who threw the kind of a little guy. He was drunk, but he was yelling and cussing at me and Lopez, and then he went and picked some fight with a homeless guy. Actually snitched out the homeless guy after, as if the homeless guy was doing it, and then karma kind of got around, and he threw the can and ended up getting arrested. But outside of that, everyone was just out there having a good time. There were a lot of listeners, just a lot of love all the way around. One of the really, really good days in the history of the city for sports, and just really good vibes all around. And we were talking about this today. Like, if it weren't for the Houston Astros, and I call them the Whoopie, if it weren't for the Houston Astros, what the hell would we be talking about in this city as far as sports? Rockets, one of the worst teams in the NBA. Texans are the worst team in the NFL right now, which might not be a bad thing. We'll get into that in a sec. But the Whoopie has held it down. They've held it down for a long time. I think longer than anyone could have imagined. And we got to be appreciative of that. I just mentioned the Texans. The Texans actually had a pretty good weekend too. And it could end up being a very monumental weekend for the Houston Texans. Now, they didn't win a championship like the Astros, but with the Detroit Lions win over the Green Bay Packers, the Texans now control their own destiny when it comes to having the number one pick in the draft, because the Texans currently have the worst record in the NFL. And if the draft began today, the Houston Texans would have the number one overall pick, which means Bryce Young would be my selection. But they would be able to evaluate that. And whether it's Bryce Young, whether it's Anderson, whoever it is, the Texans could have a chance to completely turn around the fate of their franchise and completely revamp the franchise, have a face of a franchise. If it's Bryce Young, you got the guy who's already on Dr. Pepper commercials. You got the guy with the pedigree. You can build around him. Find a way to win meaningful games. I thought this was interesting because I kept hearing Lovie Smith say he wants to focus on what happens on the field. Lovie Smith might be the perfect guy for this job, assuming that we want the Texans to lose and get the number one pick. Lovie Smith's total head coaching record as a coach, both at Illinois and in the NFL. And in the NFL, his record is 90, 93, and 1. Lovie Smith's total head coaching record is 107, 132, and 1. Let me say it again. 107, 132, and 1. That is Lovie Smith's head coaching record. So hopefully he can continue to do that. And we'll be talking about the number one pick in the draft for the Texans. And maybe that will be step one in them getting to where, I can't even say it with a straight face, to where they can get better. I won't even say they could have a parade like this, because that's a little much. That's not even something that needs to be said with a straight face. The big news today, though, at the parade, and this was weird as hell. I thought there was actually some poetic justice in the first piece of news that happened with the Indianapolis Colts, in that the largest celebration of one of the greatest teams in the history of this city, and just the vibes, it was accompanied with the news that one of the sources of the biggest displays of what many people considered Houston sports before the Oilers meltdown against the Buffalo Bills, Frank Reich got fired. And I thought there was kind of like some poetic justice there, that, you know, while we're celebrating Houston and we're talking about overcoming things, and we're talking about, you know, shaking off the demons of the past, and we're talking about shaking them haters off, Frank Reich gets fired. That was just a small part of the story, because it got real effing weird after that. Because the Indianapolis Colts hired Jeff Saturday to be their head coach. I know we had a lot of fun with the Josh McCown stuff, and I know I was the rider of the McCown train, but goodness gracious. Jeff Saturday, head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. What the hell are they doing out there? This can't be Chris Ballard's idea. I got to wonder if the Indianapolis Colts are not only going to be looking for a quarterback, I got to wonder if the Indianapolis Colts are going to be looking for a coach and a new GM in the offseason. Because I find it really hard to believe that Chris Ballard, who's been one of the most respected GMs in the NFL the last few years, I find it really hard to believe that Chris Ballard sat there and said, let's bring in Jeff Saturday. And I am pumped to see this press conference and at least hear what exactly they're thinking. Because this has Irsay written all over it. And I also think it's kind of a lesson for the Texans that you can build a perfect roster. And these are the kind of debates we're going to have leading up to the draft. You can build a perfect roster. And hell, Indianapolis, probably 2 of the last 5 years, they were one of those teams that was a quarterback away. Then in the offseason, you try to find a quarterback. You get just a stopgap guy. Then the next year, you do the same thing. Then the next year, you do the same thing. Then the next year, you do the same thing. And all of a sudden, your coach is fired. Your GM, his status is up in the air. And you have Jeff Saturday from ESPN as your head coach. Life comes at you fast. And assuming the Texans don't screw this up and assuming that the Texans do get this number 1 pick, and depending on what happens with Cleveland and their draft pick, which looks like it could be near the top 10, this is the ultimate display of why you got to find that quarterback. Because if you don't, Nick Caserio could be looking for a job sooner rather than later. It's a wild world. It was a good day, though. Parade, Colts in turmoil, Texans in control of the number 1 pick, and not much sleep been had around here lately. Sports Radio 610 tomorrow at 10 a.m. Myself, John Lopez, Figgy Fig, fire up the Odyssey app. We'll be on that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Going to keep these coming daily. We're about 2 months in. We're almost 800 deep, trying to get to 1,000. Someone says, I think Jeff Saturday will be good. Okay, maybe. I mean, all right. We'll see. I don't, but I was a Josh McCown guy. So what the F do I know? Subscribe if you haven't, at Landry Locker on Twitter, at Landry Locker on Instagram. Life comes at you fast. One time you're the worst. You're the laughing stock in MLB. Then you're one of the best displays of, oh, he was joking. Okay. Then you're one of the best displays of a modern baseball dynasty. And there's still plenty going. And Frank Reich's fired and the Texans got the number 1 pick. We got a lot to get into. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Keep the comments coming. I'm going to get some damn rest. I'm tired as hell, if I'm being honest. So talk to y'all later. It is football season. It is basketball season. Remember, no matter what, we are all in this together. Shout out to you, and have a very, very happy parade night.